Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? Hope you're having a good afternoon, and of course, a happy Halloween. Today for Halloween, we have a special episode. We're gonna be reviewing a Castlevania game. Now, last Castlevania review I did was Castlevania 2, and we're gonna go slightly out of order. Theoretically, 3 would be next, but I felt like going a little bit further in time in Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance. Now, by this point, we were well into the Metroidvania phase of the Castlevania series. We kind of shifted away from the good old Belmonts to more kind of edgelords like Alucard and this game's protagonist, Soma Cruz. Now, Soma Cruz was definitely a different protagonist for sure, not only in the fact that he was, in the future of 2035. He was also a high school student, and my god, this might be the palest motherfucker I've ever seen in my life. If you thought Alucard was looking ill, Soma Cruz, he looks like he came out of the womb with a fucking terminal illness, and he's just been fighting it this entire time. He's barely holding himself together, but he's definitely a cool protagonist, and while he doesn't have those muscles or the vampire killer, running around throwing crosses and whipping shit, he definitely can get the job done. And the whole story in general takes place when Soma Cruz, he's walking up a flight of stairs to go look at a solar eclipse with one of his friends. I believe her name is Mina. And all of a sudden, boom, he just fucking teleports into the eclipse inside of Dracula's castle. And he immediately meets up with this guy, Genya Arikado. They make it pretty clear early on that this guy is Alucard. They're attacked by a bunch of monsters, and Mina is injured. Soma Cruz, he's going in to defend her. My boy, he's a hero. He's walking in with this little pocket knife. He stabs the little winged skeleton guy, and he absorbs its soul. And Alucard explains to Soma that he now has to go through the castle up to the throne room. He doesn't really explain much more. It's a little confusing at the start. Throughout your journey in Dracula's castle, you'll find a bunch of other colorful characters like Yoko Belnades, which, as the name suggests, is a descendant from Sypha Belnades from Castlevania 3, which is kind of cool. And she doesn't really do much in the plot, but she's entertaining enough. And she even gets stabbed later on, which is, that's pretty epic. You also find this mysterious guy named Jay, and he doesn't remember anything. This guy, he's like completely fallen to Alzheimer's. He doesn't remember that he took a shit this morning. He doesn't know what he had for breakfast, and he explains that being in Dracula's castle, he slowly begins to regain his memories, and he feels like he's connected to Dracula somehow. And later on through the story, it's explained that Jay is actually Julius Belmont, the last Belmont to fight Dracula in the year 1999, where they supposedly permanently defeated him. And that brings us over to our main villain, a guy named Graham. You see, since Dracula was supposedly permanently killed, it's said that he's gonna be reincarnated in the future, that someone's gonna step into his castle and get all of his powers. He believes that he is gonna inherit his powers. Eventually, we throw down with Graham, we have a confrontation, and it's revealed that Soma is actually supposed to be the reincarnation of Dracula. And so he has to go and fix that before he turns into the Lord of the Night himself, Count Dracula. Definitely a cool plot twist at the end. I thought that was pretty neat, that your protagonist is actually Dracula. Before it was stupid like in Lords of Shadow, this was actually kind of neat. And while Dracula isn't directly in this game, the whole story is tied around him. Like, it still revolves around Dracula, and that's cool, I think Castlevania Nocturne, that big old fucking pile of shit, should take notes. Anyway, the story is pretty shallow in this one. It does the job. It's a simple Castlevania story. You might enjoy parts of it, but the core of Castlevania is still the gameplay. Always has been. Always will be. And like I said, this game is a Metroidvania. It has a whole bunch of different things to do in it. The main mechanic of this game revolves around souls. So if you kill an enemy, there's a chance that it'll give you its soul, and then you can use its power. There's like support ones, there's offensive, just regular sub-weapon style attack souls that you can pick up. And there's like more stat boosting ones. There's all sorts of different varieties in this game. You level up in this title, get stat boosts, like there's intelligence, which boosts your magic, there's strength, defense, just your standard stuff. And then you have to look through the castle and find new equipment like different swords and tunics and all sorts of armors and stuff. It's quite cool. And the layout of this castle is fucking massive. This is one of the bigger castles in Castlevania history. This place is huge. There's so many different areas to explore and a huge variety of different enemies, which we'll get to later. There's kind of the typical areas that you might have seen in Symphony of the Night, like there's, of course, a Colosseum, there's a chapel, you know, the entrance. Those are kind of more generic, but you got like more interesting ones like the floating gardens, which sends you up into the skies. Quite a unique idea. One of the main things you'll find exploring Dracula's castle is money, and that brings me neatly over to my boy Hammer, this guy, this Sigma male Hammer. He has a shop, and he's willing to sell you all sorts of different weapons. You can sell him all your old useless junk to buy brand new spanking overpowered gear for the next area. Like I said before, the enemy variety is quite high in this one. There's easily over 100 different monsters, and they all drop unique souls, which is just a great idea. There's so many different routes you can go to during a playthrough, depending on which souls you pick up, or if you want to play it safe and grind for new ones, it's great. The bosses, of course, are the star of the show in terms of combat, and there's a bunch of cool ones in this game. You'll have like weird battles against like this chick that like changes mass and turns into different creatures and stuff. And of course you'll have some familiar faces as well, like Death makes an appearance in this game. And this might be one of my favorite death fights in the entire series. I don't know what happened to him in Castlevania 2. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he turned into a vegetable in Castlevania 2, but he's back. He said, "That was a fluke, that was my cousin. I'm actually gonna fucking fight you this time instead of wandering around fucking floating in the air doing nothing." And yeah, he brings it in Aria of Sorrow. The graphics in Aria of Sorrow are fucking fantastic for a Game Boy Advance game. If you just look at the backgrounds, there's so much attention to detail, and there's so many special effects going in the backgrounds. Just the pixel art in general is fantastic. The animation is really smooth. Comparing it to its predecessor, Symphony of the Night, they really tried to mimic the animation of the main character walking and like the coat like flailing in the air and stuff, and they did a great job here. The sound, it's pretty well done. Definitely not one of my favorite Castlevania soundtracks, but producing sound on the Game Boy Advance was quite tricky. But for what they were working with, they did a pretty good job. There are some cool tunes here, and I'll play a couple of them here, and you can judge for yourself. The sound effects are excellent. Hitting stuff with your sword, a lot of times it'll make a nice bloody like slash sound, and it sounds amazing. It's really satisfying. And there's even some voice work in here. Just little bits of voices, which is, again, pretty impressive for the Game Boy Advance. Anyway, after we beat Graham, he obviously dies. We fucking kill him. With ease, too, by the way. I was super over-leveled for this part of the game. And if you have a specific set of souls that you collected and equip them, the game continues. It doesn't end there. You don't get the bad ending. Instead, Soma inherits the powers of Dracula, and he has to journey to the chaotic realm to go stop him from being completely overtaken by Dracula. But before we reach the final area, Julius Belmont comes back, and he realizes that we are Dracula, and he's here to fucking kill us. Like, he's coming around, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna shank your ass. I'm just gonna put it straight up, Soma. You know, I know you're a high schooler. I know you have your whole life ahead of you. Well, you see, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna kill you, brother. And yeah, he tries. He tries to kill us, but of course he fails because I'm super over-leveled, and I'm just doing, like, crazy damage to him. And honestly, I'm surprised I didn't turn him into a red mist with the kind of attacks I was throwing out, but it turns out, you know, I guess he was holding back, blah blah blah, whatever. I still claim victory. And we go out to the chaotic realm for the final showdown. And I'm gonna be real, this place on my first playthrough was kind of spooky. Like, really unsettling with the music, and you go through previous areas, but they're all, like, black and white and eerie. And once we make it to the final boss, it's, like, just insane. Like, I don't even know what I'm fighting. But, again, over-leveled, goes down, like, super easily, just fucking obliterated. It was a cool final boss. It was too easy this time around, but your first playthrough, you might struggle a bit, because some of his attacks are large and hard to avoid. But that's Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance, and my god, this game is a treat. I really enjoyed this game. It's not very long. It's a nice, chill, maybe 6 to 10 hour playthrough depending on if it's your first time around or not. And everything, for the most part, is executed very well. All the enemies are challenging. It's fun to farm through them and get their souls. One complaint I do have is some of these guys take way too much grinding. Like, their drop chances are seriously low, and, you know, it's all a matter of choice, so it's not really a big complaint, but if you want some of the later game souls, you're gonna have to be there for a while. Another minor complaint I have with this game is they seem to be pretty content at points throwing empty rooms towards you. Like, you'll have a branching path, and you'll go into a room, and there's nothing in there. There's nothing. There might be some enemies, and there's no item for you to pick up. There's no reason for that room to exist. And it's just kind of strange. I mean, even like a really basic item like a potion or something would suffice. I don't know why they just threw in empty rooms like that. And another minor complaint, which seems to be shared with a lot of these Metroidvania games, is getting the true ending. It's cryptic. Like I said earlier, you have to have a very specific set of souls to become Dracula. Really, that's for the whole game, just a series of minor complaints that bring it down just slightly, but it's still a great time. I really enjoy this game. I think you will too. If you love Castlevania and somehow haven't played this yet, what the fuck are you doing not playing this? Like, what's wrong with you? Well, I guess it's kind of expensive. Just buy the Castlevania Advance Collection, alright? But get on this game ASAP. It's great. With that, I'm gonna give it an 8.8 out of 10. That's a great score. I think you'll enjoy this game as much as I did, at least hopefully. What a great game to review for Halloween. You know, like I said, you know, happy Halloween. Hope you guys have a good one. Take care. Enjoy your day. Hopefully you get to do some spooky stuff. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.